Okay. Um, Welcome to this monthly free space that somehow I felt it was important to start creating a space for women to come together, specifically to feel supported, to feel actually, to start feeling things. I think at least my lived experience has been that I lived very numb for so much of my life that when I started to feel, it was really, really scary. And if I'm really honest, I had to figure out ways to feel safe to feel. And I didn't have something like this to turn to just sit and observe and allow myself to feel. So wherever you're at in your life, if you're feeling numbed out, if you're feeling like you feel too much, you are welcome here. And I see you, I feel you. Um, I've been there and I still go there. And it's part of our humanity and it's part of the beauty of life. So as you're coming in here, I want to invite you to um, just, if you can, close your eyes, if it's safe to, if you're in a safe space, and just take a few deep breaths, allowing yourself to kind of let everything that might be right here and feel really close just go out to the periphery as far as that needs to be for you. Just giving yourself some gentle space to breathe, space to feel, space to observe, and space to allow yourself to come home to. Part of what I have observed in myself is when I first would hear the idea, because you hear it a lot now, people talking about homecoming or coming home. And I remember hearing that for the first time years ago. And actually, it kind of scared me because if I'm really honest, I didn't know who I who I really was. And the idea of coming home to me kind of scared me because I didn't know what I would be coming home to. I had an idea of what that might feel like, but and I think it's ever changing. I don't think it's just one place that we arrive at because we are we are part of this infinite expanding universe. And as part of that, we ourselves are absolutely expanding ourselves always. There's no arrival at a certain place. Um, and that's the beauty. And that's what I want to kind of say here and let it sink into you. There's like a secret that maybe we are understanding is that however we are is okay. That we are okay perfectly as we are right now, because that's part of why we're here in life, is to be willing to soften, to dissolve walls that between ourselves and ourselves, if that makes sense, to create bridges inward and stop seeking the things that we think are going to make us feel loved and validated. Our sacred needs are to be seen, heard, and understood, but somehow we were taught to believe that those things exist outside of us. And those things don't exist outside of us. That's the plot twist. The plot twist is that all of what we are seeking is right here at home, in home, in us. And so I want to invite you to, if you're willing, and this is, like I said before, some of you are entering in. Welcome here to this space. I'm so thrilled to have any and all of you here. I want this to be a space, a container that I'm creating for you to enter in and feel at ease. And that will be different and feel different for each one of you. Some of you might be comfortable having your camera on. Some might not. Some are busy going about driving or taking care of kids or whatever it is. Maybe you're at work and it's your lunchtime. But if you want to have your video on or off, I allow you to do that. Please do what feels aligned for you. And I'm hoping that some of you will use our chat option, because if you keep your camera off and you can still use the chat, that's a beautiful thing, because you can still be a participator or not. But I'm going to ask you to check in. And when I used to teach meditations online, we would do this thing. I don't know where I picked this up, in a Sangha, it was probably during COVID, when I was sitting in different groups around the world with people, and we would do a check-in. And the check-in wasn't that we identified with what was moving through us at the time, it was that we were observing it. That's the idea of the idea of meditation isn't to become a really good meditator. It's to take what you're using in meditation, the tools and resources that you're learning and observing about yourself in those moments, and taking that into the flow of your life. So now you're more aware of, oh, thinking, my brain is thinking. Does that mean that thought is true? Does it mean that feeling is true? Let me observe that. You become an observer and you give yourself some space. So when we check in, I'm going to have you, if you want, check in the chat. And how we do that is we say there is, and it can be one or two things. It's really simple. So let me start. Instead of saying I'm scared or I'm tired or I'm nervous, it's no, we're giving some space. Right now, there is, for me, there is trust and there is fear. There gets to be both. And I think this life of ours is not so black and white as we think. It's technicolor, and it gets to be both and. It gets to be everything, and everything is okay just as it is. It's okay for me to trust myself in the universe, and it's okay to still be human and give compassion to the part of me that is scared. I just moved back to America, and there's a lot of unknown and uncertainty. But I used to believe that I was so certain about so many things. And the one thing I do know now is that uncertainty is a beautiful place, because it's where magic happens. And so in this liminal space, I get to decide what I observe about myself and how I feel, and I get to feel it all, and I don't need to be numb. And that is beautiful for me. I think it's why we're here, is to accept it all just as it is and allow it to be just what it is, without trying to control it or contain it or change it. So I'm checking in and I'm saying there is trust, deep trust, and fear. That's how I'm checking in today. So if any of you want to put in the chat, I can read it and share it. I would love to see where you guys are at and what it feels like to maybe be in a space of both and that's okay. Or maybe it's feeling tired and scared. And that's okay. That's acceptable too. Okay. Ariana is saying there is love and betrayal. Both. And. Thank you, Ariana, for sharing your heart. I appreciate that. And like I said, anyone who's entering in here, don't feel you have to participate in the chat. It's just kind of a way to have a common thread that we see each other and feel each other and understand in deeper ways. Part of why I love speaking about the things that move through me is because I think it's both and. It's very personal. And as I've moved forward on my journey, I realize, oh no, it's not just personal. This is universal. As I speak to other people, I realize there are as many paths as there are people, and we have so much in common, so much more in common than we do have that is diverse or different than each other. So I'm going to ask you to set an intention. First of all, I'm going to ask you to set an intention first to allow your heart. And maybe you want to, if you're in a space that you can, close your eyes and take a couple of deep breaths. where you're kind of coming to center, bringing your energetic tendrils back in to yourself, back home. Just to allow yourself to be here now. Anything that you were thinking about before that felt heavy or burdened, excessive or staticky, just let it dissolve. Let it go out to your noble threshold and just be on the periphery there, and that's okay. So as you settle down, think of your inner realm being like a water, like a lake or a pool of water. And as it was maybe a little turbulent before, just observing this water and allowing it to become more settled, more still. With each breath that you take in and release, it is becoming more still, this water, your inner oasis. Just allowing it to still, and still waters are clear. When things are stirred up, they become murky, stirred with drama, stirred with trauma, stirred with the overthinking, over-efforting, just allowing with every breath things to settle, to become more clear, more still. And from this place, observing what is happening. There is trust. There is fear. Okay. And setting an intention right here to open your heart to receive, to feel or be moved by anything that is said or understood, anything that resonates with you, to just allow your heart to become a receiver through this clear water that exists in you, that is no longer stirred up. And by the way, as you do this now, if you're doing it now, this is a tool, a resource for you to continue to do just this whenever you so choose. Our greatest power lies in the now moment, each now moment. We know that time is relative. It seems to us in our human existence that it is linear and past and the future. But we know now in this day and age that time, actually the ancients knew this, and now with Einstein and everything, that it's relative and that time is existing in different dimensions of time. And when we start to grasp that, we understand that, oh, wow, that kind of changes things. Because in every now moment, I have a choice. I can choose love, stillness, peace, inner peace, calm, or fear. Stirred up, murky, drama, trauma, and I get to choose in every now moment. So setting the intention right now to choose peace and love, to be a receiver, to open your heart to what may move through you, what resonates with you right now. And trust that as you become a receiver and more open, not so many walls around your heart, that is going to take you somewhere beautiful. And it's not anywhere outside of you. It brings you closer home to the truth, to remember the truth of who you are, who you be. Okay, the second intention thing that I'm going to ask you to set is a personal intention for this space. I've opened up this container. Here you have arrived. Thank you for being here. And I want you, as you sit here and just think in this still oasis, this inner oasis of yours in the stillness for a moment, allow what is the first thing that comes to your mind to be the intention that you're setting for this time together. Maybe you take that into your day, your week, your month, your life. Beautiful, whatever that is. But trust that our subconscious is always paying attention and that it will give you in the moment that you're thinking, I wonder what would be a good intention for me right now? Go with your first impression. I call this, when I work with people, I call this flexing the muscle of trust, self-trust. That trust, the first thing that comes from you, not to your mind, because right after it's very, very subtle, this thing. There's a difference between what comes from us and what comes to us. What comes from us is from our sacred bowl space, our gut, intuition, right? As females, this is a gift that we have been given. And we get to flex that muscle of our intuition and start trusting it more and more. So this is a good exercise for you to do at any moment, to still your waters, come back home, bring all your energy back in, your power in your now moment, and ask yourself, what is my intention for whatever I'm doing right now? Here we are in the space. What is the intention that you want to create for yourself that feels right in the moment? Something will come to you. And then right after that, your mind will be like, oh, that was a silly thought. Trust yourself. What came to you is for you, is from you, is guidance for you in the moment. So the two intentions were to open yourself up, to allow your heart to receive. And from that space, you get to flex the muscle of your trust and set an intention for this time for yourself here in this moment. Think about the power of intention. In any moment of our days, of our comings and goings from places and spaces in front of people here, what if we showed up in every now moment with intention instead of, like, if you had to think about what the opposite of intention is, you can share in the chat if you'd like. What comes to my mind is distraction. The opposite of intention might be something like distraction. If I'm distracted and I'm just doing without intending, if I'm just not thinking about what I'm doing, I'm kind of robotic and I'm not feeling, I'm numb. I'm not slowing down. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Starting all new chapters. Reveal more light and lift each other up. Okay. With intention. These are your intentions. Thank you for sharing that here. Rania wants to start a new chapter. That is beautiful. And this is what I want to say. What just came to me as you said this or shared this. Do we understand that because all we ever have are our now moments, we have the power and the freedom to choose in any now moment to start a new chapter, right? Does that make sense? Is this landing for you? Like literally every now moment is a moment for us to say, oh, I'm going to begin again. As when I had little kids, I read this book, I forget the name of it, and it had this like outlandish idea that I'd never thought of. It makes me weep when I think of it because I saw how it affected me and my relationship with my children. And it was about having a do-over. If I would get upset or yell at my kids or just get angry or whatever, and just I was human, right? And I remembered reading in this book, going to your kids and saying, "Can I have a do-over? Let's have a do-over. We're gonna start over." And I would recreate the situation, and instead of yelling or being angry or blaming or losing my cool, I started over. And I could, and I did. And as I did that, I realized because kids learn by watching, not by listening to what we teach. They learn by observation. We are creatures of energy, and what we feel is so much more powerful than what we hear. And so, and we hear also by that too, but I realized that as I modeled that for my kids, I suddenly heard them in the other room playing and they would start fighting and one would say, "Can I have a do-over?" And I thought, well, bless their hearts. They learned from me and I learned from this book. Thank goodness for that book. Because now as I've kind of moved past and my kids are grown now, I get to give that to myself. I never thought of that. Like, lo and behold, what a grand idea that in every now moment I get to start over. I get to do over. Can I have a do-over? I didn't do that right. Is there a right or a wrong? Can we make a mistake? If all we are here is to feel love, and that love that we give and receive to and from ourselves is the love that we're seeking. So this is the journey. The journey is to come home and realize that we are the one that we've always been seeking. That to be seen, heard, and understood, that sacred need that we have as souls, as humans, to connect, to have intimacy and connection with other. But first, for that to happen, it happens here with ourselves, to have connection and unification with ourselves. So no more walls, like being vulnerable and transparent with ourselves, being self-responsible. Okay, here. Jill says, yes, every now moment is an opportunity. Yeah. Why has it taken me so long to understand that? And I'm grateful for my path. So if time is relative, I'm going to go back to this concept, then that means that everything that's ever happened in my life is perfectly ordered and had to happen the way that it did, because every now moment I was just choosing what I thought was best in that now moment for me then. And I did it with the awareness that I had in that now moment. So that means it's all acceptable because it's part of my path and it led me to where I am now. So if you think of the word perfect, perfect is used a lot. And I want to break that down just a bit. This idea of perfect, the etymology of perfection is based in Latin, which is perfectus, which is the word comes from the word perficere, which is Italian. Per is through or complete, completely. And facere is to do or to make. So per facere means to make complete, to make it whole. So stay with me here. If our goal is to become perfect or whole, complete, and there is no time, so there is no future or past, like, oh yeah, I'm becoming this thing, or someday I'll become my highest self, or I will be that version of me that I'm trying to become. I'm over efforting and I'm striving to become this. Guess what? There is no future time. There are only dimensions, different layers and dimensions of time in the now. So that future version of us already exists in the now, energetically in a different realm, a different dimension of time, layer of time, which is so beautiful because it means that we're already whole. That highest version of me, she already exists right now. She's complete and she's whole and she's love. She's beauty with a capital B. And she allows all of the messiness of my humanity to be, because she knows that I'm already whole. And she's witnessing me with so much compassion and love as I strive and I try and I effort to become, when it's like that highest version of me holds me when I feel into it and I feel her giving me that unconditional. my Wi-Fi um in this building that I just moved into just went out, and I realized I was connected to my Wi-Fi and not my personal hotspot. So now I'm connected to my personal hotspot, and we're going to cross our fingers that this is going to be okay now, that my personal hotspot will hold us here in this space. How very interesting. Okay. What is the universe saying? Like, okay, so I want you to consider unconditional love. I'm going to open up the chat here again so I can see what people are saying. Okay. Thank you for welcoming me back here. And I want you to close your eyes if you can, if it's safe wherever you are. And I'm going to speak for just a few more minutes, and then I'm going to open this up to anyone that would like life coaching, if they have questions about anything that I've spoken to, if they feel that they have right now in their life any challenges, any roadblocks that feel insurmountable. I would love to assist you, help you become a little less diseased. That's the word that comes, not in ease, to help you feel more at peace here with what may be moving through you in your life right now. Okay, so consider this. If you think about, and if you can close your eyes, it always helps me. Maybe you have a different way. My way is if I close my eyes, I feel like I can turn in and tune in a deeper way. So closing eyes, if that feels right. And I want you to consider what unconditional love looks like, what it feels like. What exactly could that be? Can we actually describe it? Have we ever felt it? Have we ever truly experienced it? Can we allow it to fill us up energetically? It's a beautiful thought, but what would it feel like? So I'm going to ask you, with our human brain and our senses that we have, that are our five senses and our sixth sense, this inner knowing, that sacred bowl, that intuition, I want you to feel. Think of something that you yourself have loved so deeply, maybe unconditionally. Is it a child? Is it an animal? As I was thinking about this, like maybe it's a concept, maybe it's an experience you've had, maybe it's a scene in nature, maybe it's a part of nature, like a tree, a river, a lake, something that exists. I want you to stand in front of that thing. Bring it into your mind's eye, however that feels natural for you. And with all the love that you feel, have experienced, understand, with all your sensations, sensory experience, I want you to feel that feeling of love, as close as you can to what it might feel to love that thing without conditions, without any conditions. You're loving it perfectly as it is, completely, wholly as it is, just in its purest essence, with its imperfection, because we're all imperfect, perfectly imperfect, because we're both, and right, like that's the secret. So closing your eyes again, feeling this love, I invite you to expand that feeling in your heart. Make it bigger. Imagine and even maybe understand that this feeling is actually limitless. We are part of a limitless, expanding universe, which means that we ourselves are limitless and ever expanding, which means that the love that we are, that exists in everything and all, that love is limitless. So picture it expanding, okay? In front of you as you look at this thing, this experience, this person, this animal, whatever it is, this entity in front of you. Keep expanding it, keep it growing, keep nourishing it and letting it expand. If it contracts, that's okay too. Because with contraction comes greater expansion, evolution. We are part of nature, and it's always doing this, right? Contracting, expanding. And so do we. We have fear and doubt and gripping shame, and then we expand beyond that into greater love, deeper love. So notice yourself limitless, loving, expanding, shrinking, growing, all of it. Just observe yourself in this moment, thinking, feeling this unconditional love. And I'm going to ask you to tenderly, gently, slowly distill this feeling that I'm asking you to expand, this love. And if you can, expand it and actually begin to distill it and contract it down into its purest essence, kind of into a ball. You get to feel into what that feels like. If it has a color, does it have a texture, a temperature? Imagine it. This love, this unconditional love, distilled down into your hands. Can you feel it? Feel it as something palpable, energetic. As you breathe in, it contracts a bit. And as you breathe out, it expands. Either way is just right. Let it contract and expand and be just what it is, but feel it. And now, all of this love, this beauty, this joy, this expansion, the contraction too, all of it, fear, whatever it is, embrace it all. Let it be. And then I'm going to ask you to gently, when you're ready, start to bring that closer to your heart, to your breast, to your heart space. Keep breathing. Keep bringing this love feeling to you. If it feels right, go ahead and allow this energetic feeling, this energy of love, to enter into the center of your heart space. And with your eyes closed, I want to explain something that I have come to understand in deeper and deeper ways. And I think it's where things started to really shift and change for me in loving me in deeper ways. Feel this love that you just brought into the center of your heart. And I'm going to share with you this idea that is true, that whenever we have feelings of love, a good barometer for this is if we have ever loved something or someone and we have felt this feeling. Let's say, they say, oh, the honeymoon of lovers, and like when you're first meeting someone and you're falling in love, it's like you're falling into this experience and it catches you with this warm embrace, and we love the feeling of love, right? And we believe that this person, this entity, this thing in front of us is the thing that we love, when in truth, that thing is only ever a mirror reflecting back to us the love that already exists here, or we would never have been able to feel it for them. We love how we be in relationship to this thing that brings out this thing that already exists in us. Does this make sense? So things that we fall in love with are only ever showing us what exists inside of us. And I want to say, I don't want to go there very long, but I also want to say the contrary of this is also true. When we find fault, when we're judging, when we despise or really get upset and triggered by certain things, pay attention. If life is a mirror and neutral, it's always taking what we're projecting out from here back to us. If we will observe, if we will pay attention, life is our greatest ally. We can trust it. It's always showing us who we be. And there's no fault in any of it. I noticed that I'm really judgmental of that thing or that person, that they said that or that triggered me. Pay attention. Life is saying, wherever you're judging out here, there's that saying, these three fingers are pointing back at you. You're pointing one finger, but there's things that are pointing back to you that want you to receive and say, oh, I kind of don't like that I do that. Or maybe I'm not even aware that I do that too. And so no wonder I'm judging it out here because it exists as a shadow inside of me. And when I'm able to turn towards that shadow and give it so much compassion and say, of course I feel that way. I'm human. Now I get to love that part of me back into more wholeness, more completeness. Does that make sense? That fractured part, shadowy part that lives over here is no longer separate from me. It's part of me. And with so much love and compassion from myself, I get to bring that into more completion, more whole Noel, because I'm not disconnected from certain parts of myself because I'm unwilling to see them or turn towards them. Okay, so that's a lot of talking. Thank you for being here, but I want to open it up now. If anyone has anything to say or anything to add, if they've experienced anything with what I have spoken to, with their experiences with love, feelings of love, of unconditional love, this idea that when we finally become a receiver, first and foremost, we are receiving from ourselves that love because we're giving it. It's a giving and receiving right here first. This is the microcosm before it goes out into the macrocosm. When we let the waters of life flow through us and settle here clearly, we realize and remember, oh, I am love. I've always been love. I just forgot. And as I give and receive it to myself, then that water flows like an everlasting waters of life flowing out into all of my life energetically. And life, like then you get to just literally sit in awe and wonder at that energy flow into every aspect of your life and become so beautiful because everything is loved just as it is. It doesn't need to be judged. It just wants to be loved. All the parts of us, all the parts of others, not trying to control others or tell them how they should be or shouldn't be, or tell ourselves how we should or shouldn't be, but to love ourselves. And it doesn't mean that we get comfortable. Actually, the comfortability of uncomfortability is a catalyst too, right? When we are numbed out and we're comfortably numb and we're not observing ourselves so much, we're just kind of going through the motions of our lives without intention, that can get really uncomfortable. And that becomes the catalyst for observation, awareness, and change. So that's the cycle. And it just happens over and over. When we give ourselves compassion, the parts of us that feel really sticky and messy get to come back to the center of our heart and be loved and held, and we become more whole. Our souls are not broken. We don't have anything to heal. We're already whole. We just get to bring the parts of ourselves that we forgot about or left on the wayside because they're not so perfect in our human judgment, and we bring those back home. We start to deepen the well to receive more love from ourselves to ourselves. Does this make sense? Okay. If anyone would love to share what this feels like for them, what it doesn't feel like, if you're feeling any resistance to anything that I'm saying, I would love to hear that. I would love to feel that. I'm curious. Maybe you can even write to me privately and I won't share it. If you're a little uncomfortable thinking, well, I don't want to share it out in the chat or anything because it'll say my name, then send it to me privately and I'll speak to it, but I won't say who it's from or whatever. There's that option too. Or if you are brave enough and want to show up on camera and not be hidden, I would love that too. That's why I'm here. That's what this space is for. I want to keep it simple and contained here, but I also want to create a space that people feel open to share what's moving through them, what they're observing. If I'm saying something that might be triggering something, this is beautiful because where we feel triggered is showing us where we're still not free. If we are triggered, that means we're resisting. So we get to turn towards it because remember, life is our ally. Let's say, what if we've always believed that life is happening to us? Then there may be resistance in this message that I'm bringing. But think of what resistance feels like. There's a difference between submission and surrender. Submission feels like resistance because you're like this, right? It's like, and you can't sustain it. It's not sustainable. If waves of life are hitting you because life is happening to you, you can't sustain that. You're going to break. It's rigid, it's small, it's contracted. But this is surrender. It's very different. It's open. It's receiving. It's not resisting. Now you're in the flow. Whatever is coming is welcome because you trust yourself to be safe. Fear becomes safe because love already won. There is no future time when love wins, just like our future self doesn't exist in the future. Love is winning. So when we choose in every now moment, love over fear, fear is safe because I trust myself to be safe with every emotion that comes up, especially my fear. So I can turn towards her, that scared part of me, and hold her. And now I know that I can trust life because I trust myself to be safe with fear and anxiety and desperation. I want to feel it all. I don't want to be numb. I want to feel it all. Okay. Question here. Thank you so, so much. Love this. How do we put this into practical application inside ourselves and our children? Okay. Very, very good question. So this is what I think part of why I felt called to come back to America. Strangely, when I moved away to Italy, I didn't think I'd ever come back. I felt so called and so important to be there. And now I can see all the reasons why they keep coming and coming and showing up in perfect timing, right? I thought I had the answers then, and I suppose for the rest of my existence, it will continue to drop in the significance. But coming back here to America, I keep getting this understanding of it's so simple. Just break everything down to its most simple things, simplicity of slowing down in order to allow ourselves to be found and not found by something or someone outside of us, but for us to find ourselves, to be safe, to know that we can find and allow ourselves to be found, to come home. How do we do that? Debbie, it is such a good question. It's by small and simple things are great things brought to pass. It's by your willingness to slow down, to step into slow time. Do we ever do that as women? Do we allow ourselves to be more still? Do we have a daily practice that's not over-efforted, where we can step into stillness and take a couple of deep breaths and with intention, set the energy of our inner realm, that water that's so stirred up so often in our head, in our hearts, in our womb space? Can we allow ourselves to become settled and stable and vertical instead of horizontal and out, dispersed, leaking, reacting to life, instead of coming back home and saying, I choose in every now moment to stay vertical, to choose love, to tap into the love that I am, all the love that is, whatever you want to call that, God, the universe, spirit, source, the great mystery. It's all saying the same thing with a different language, different words. That energy that we are all a part of, we get to tap into it. We are it at all times. So when we choose that love, like really, what would love do right now? Well, and when I say she, I mean that highest version of me that I already am right now, more whole, more love, more beautiful with a capital B. Well, how would she show up with her kids? What does that look like? It might look different for each one of us, how we show up, but can we trust ourselves to know in every now moment what comes to us, not to us, but what comes from us, our sacred bowl to guide us? How do I want to be right now with my kids? Can I have a do-over? Let me see you, how I have learned how to see myself and understand myself and hold myself. When I have given that to me, then I can give it so freely and easily to anyone, anything in my life. Does that make sense? So practically, how often do you sit with your kids without giving instruction, advice, without telling them what they should or shouldn't be doing? To just sit, to feel them, to be with them in that present moment as love, and let rise up what feels like the most right thing in that moment for you. Can you trust yourself enough to know? Yeah. When you start giving and receiving love from yourself, you start healing. You start becoming more whole. And you start to trust that you know in any now moment how that love that you are shows up, and it deepens and it deepens and it grows. As in those micro moments, we're doing that over and over. It becomes a sacred practice every day. Every moment of every now moment of every day becomes sacred because we get to choose in every now moment who we be. I want to be love. I will choose love. And sometimes I'm going to choose fear, and that's okay too, because it's always bringing me back to the love that I know that I am. That's how it goes. That's how it's supposed to be. I don't think we're supposed to just stay in love all the time. Maybe we arrive there at some time. I don't know. But look at nature. It's doing this. It's cracking and then it's expanding. It's dying in winter and then it comes rebirth again. It's in bulk. We just passed in bulk. It's first light. Things are starting to emerge. What has been hidden and fallow and percolating and hibernating wants to come out and be birthed. Rania said she wants to start a new chapter. Yes, this is the time. But every now moment is the time. You don't have to wait for a certain time to do it. How do I teach it to my children so they can do this for themselves? Remember what I said about my children observing me doing something, and then I saw them doing it for themselves? When I said, oh, I need a do-over. Can I have a do-over? Please let me have a do-over. And I, with more intention, showed up in that moment. As they see you doing this for you, guess what they start to do? They're like little energetic sponges. They feel us, and they feel the discord and the incongruency if we are saying one thing and doing something else. They are so wise. And then at a certain point, we become adults and we start to care. We start to care so much about pleasing and being liked that we kind of abandon our authenticity for being seen by others instead of showing up as actually who we be and trusting ourselves to know. Does that make sense? So as you start to show up authentically for you with so much love, then your children, actually anyone in your life, I see this over and over as I work with people. I work with women who come because their husband won't come to therapy. They wanted to come to couples therapy, but their husband wouldn't come. And I said, come, let's do this work for you. We can't change anyone. We cannot change our partner, but we can do this work here. And I promise you, it always happens that as they start to give more love, more intention, more beauty here, it starts to shift themselves energetically. And from that, it goes out into every now experience, every person that they come into, because we all have an energetic signature, right? It's like a fingerprint. Our fingerprint is unique to us, and so is our energetic signature. This fingerprint doesn't change, but guess what? Our energetic signature gets to change. That's the good news. We always get to change our energetic signature, and every now moment we can choose. Oh, I'm going to choose love. That energy of love, you know how that feels. What does love feel like to you? It feels like lifting and supportive and nourishing, right? We love that. That's the frequency of love, of heaven. If heaven and hell can't exist in a future time because there's no future, then where do heaven and hell exist right now for us? They exist in our mind all the time. I can't go to tomorrow. I can't go live in tomorrow, but I go there all the time in my mind. So maybe our suffering and our joy exist in every now moment when we're choosing love or fear. We are that powerful. Please know this. We are that powerful if we can create so much suffering by believing a lie. Suffering is when we believe that we're not love or that we're separate from it, disconnected. And we feel it all the time as humans because it's part of our experience of being here. That's on purpose. There's a purpose for that. Because on the other side of that, we come to realize, just the opposite of that is true. They're one, but we're in a polarized world. We get to feel the contrast of both, as we should as humans. So so my husband is difficult to communicate with and it frustrates me. Is that me? Something triggers me, or could it be him? Okay, Jill, I'm going to speak to this, but I want to finish this. Trusting our own intuition, it takes practice, but honors the most authentic version of ourselves in the now moment. It builds an unconditional and undeniable self-love that people gravitate towards. I don't know who that is. It just says iPhone, but thank you. Yes, that's exactly true. It's practice and it's sacred work because we are doing it and giving it here first, and it's not selfish. Somehow, through our people-pleasing ways, we came to believe or be taught that to do it here first is selfish. I'm here to tell you, it is the most honorable thing you can do to give and receive love, beauty, joy, trust, all that you want to feel. Give it here first, because then it can't help but go, like, it can either bubble up slowly. I think it's both and, or it bursts out. It bubbles and it bursts. It's both and, it's all of it. And it comes out of us. And it is the most beautiful thing with a capital B that you can give to this world. The fact that you gave it here first. When you live vertically in the now moment and trust yourself and love to be a participator in life, yes, to feel the fear. Yes, Jill, to feel the trigger and turn towards it. Is this me? Is this my husband? Why is he triggering me? Guess what? Nobody can make us feel something unless we allow them. If we are victims to life, to people, to things, then we stay victims. But when we choose love, and do you feel the energy of victimhood? It's that thing. It's that contracted small, it's a contracted small way to be, and it's not sustainable, because this is how we become radically self-responsible. We open our hearts and say, what must I have come to believe about myself when I was younger, before I even knew better? What identity must I be living in that lives in my subconscious? Because 95% of everything we think and react and do all day long is driven by our subconscious. So if we're not even aware that I am living an identity that I must be right, or that I'm not good enough, or there's a million and one combinations of this, but as humans, we all have it. And it's a beautiful thing because the limitation that we came to believe when we were young, it has a purpose for our soul to expand. It's the contraction before the expansion. So, Jill, if you are willing to turn on your theme or not, whatever, I would love to kind of sit with you in this and maybe reflect back to you a little bit about what is triggering you specifically so we can sit with it and turn towards it. I love that you asked, is it me? Okay. If we believe that people are in our lives for a reason and not random, there's too much order in our universe to believe that anything's random. There's a purpose. And there's a purpose that your husband is triggering you. There's a purpose that you had this limiting belief that keeps triggering you because life is saying, pay attention. Your trigger is showing you where you're still not free. So if whatever he is saying, he's not communicating, he's difficult to communicate with, and it frustrates me. So what identity must you be living in? Because we all only can see the world through our perception, our identities, our lived experience, right? And I can't give you my lived experience and say, here's my lens. Look at this, see this the way I do. And there's a purpose in that because we're not meant to have other people see us like that. Yes, it's beautiful when we have given it here first, and then it opens up our lens to be able to be in relationship with everything in an easy way because we've done it here first, right? It's very subtle and yet it's not. So you asking this question, I'm listening at my desk at work and I can't. So okay, I wish I could. I'd really love that coaching though. Okay, we can do that at some point, but this is what I want to say. And this speaks to anyone. When we are in relationship with someone, anything that is triggering us, slow down, take a few breaths and observe, get curious. In meditation, they call it RAIN, the acronym of recognize, I'm being triggered. Life is my ally. Life is always giving us messages. Ask the question, what if life were my best friend? What if life were my ally? In everything and every now moment, life is always giving me an invitation, a message, an opportunity to level up to who I be, who I say I be, who I think I be, or becoming this higher version of myself that already exists. And she's witnessing me like think about this and struggle through this and be triggered. Yes, yes, you're getting there. Keep going. It's all happening right now, right? So if life is my ally and every messenger, every person, every experience is bringing me a message, a beautiful message saying, pay attention. What is your anger trying to teach you? What is your sorrow and your grief trying to teach you? What is your fear trying to teach you? Will you turn towards it and be a participator in life, in the achingly beautiful process of becoming that version, the wholest version of us, by actually embracing and understanding better the parts of us that are scared, that are angry, that are grieving? So as you sit there, a possible identity might be, I don't trust myself to show up and communicate my needs. Maybe. Because if I believe that what is this? He's so difficult to communicate with, pay attention. If you think he's difficult, what is that saying about you? If it's something you're observing in someone else that, oh, there's tension, there's friction, there's resistance there, Pay attention, pay attention. What does that mean? Could it possibly be, if we love ourselves enough, will we please tune in and say, why is this triggering me? Because it lives in me first. Okay, beautiful. What do I get to do now with that part of me that came to believe that I can't trust myself to show up authentically and speak my truth, maybe? That's an identity that I've had, that I've held a lot as I've become more self-aware and been willing to turn towards the parts of me that have felt really sticky, messy. So if I so bingo, Jill. Okay, this is a big one. Say that again. I'm going to say this again. And I want to say something before this, because I think as I've sat with people over and over again, this I think is almost like the archetypal, personal, universal thing. Our primal wound isn't so much that our parents didn't say the right things or didn't show up in the right way. It's the unspoken agreement we have with our parents that we don't ever say it because we're too young. It's before we even have words. If you keep me safe, I will become whatever version I think you want me to be loved, to be seen, to be held and understood. So the primal wound becomes, without us even knowing, before we know better, we abandon that authentic part of ourselves that just wanted to show up as authentic Noelle or authentic Jill or authentic Rania, whatever. Do you see that? It's so subtle. And yet it's supposed to be this way because it's the limitation that becomes the soul lesson. The reason why we're here in this existence is to expand our soul, our understanding. It was never true that I wasn't safe to show up authentically. I just came to believe that my parents wanted or needed me to be a certain way to be loved. But it was never true. How could that be true? If we're love just loves everything as it is, perfectly as it is. It's whole, even in its messiness. But I didn't know that. And I wasn't supposed to know that. That's part of the process of becoming whole, is to understand, I've been living my whole life in an identity subconsciously. Because when we're children, we're living in theta until we're 7 years old. Theta state is the brainwave state of frequency when we're just about to fall asleep or just wake up. Hypnagogic or hypnopompic states, when affirmations, like deep relaxation, hypnotism, and our subconscious is dominant in this point, right? It's just as we're falling asleep and we're feeding seeds to our subconscious in those moments when we're adults, because we're more likely to receive them because our subconscious is in theta state. We're closest to theta. So as kids, guess what? All the seeds of our limitations, our limiting beliefs, those things that are going to become our soul lesson for why we're here, are seeded into our subconscious as kids. And it's on purpose, because that becomes our greatest gift. We get to finally understand, oh my goodness, I'm safe to show up as authentic Noelle or Rhonda or Rania or Jill or Marissa or Michelle, anyone that I can see here. Roxana, I'm safe. I'm safe to show up authentically because I trust myself to always give love and hold myself in the parts that are scared, angry, or sad. Those primary emotions, fear, anger, and grief. Anger is a blanket emotion keeping us from feeling what we need to be feeling, which is our pain. It's based in pain. When we see people that are angry, it's because there's a deep wound that wants to be held. And it's projecting and bleeding out onto everything around them. And they keep saying, why does this keep happening to me? Because they're living in victimhood, not believing that they are love, not understanding. They've forgotten who they be. That's why we're here. We're here on purpose to forget and have those limiting beliefs seated as kids. So our whole life experience gets to be life showing us, did you remember that you're love? That you've never been anything but that. And when it finally starts to sink in deeper and deeper and you trust that, everything changes. Okay. Yes, it resonates because I've always felt like I've had to act a certain way because of how he believes. Okay. Freedom comes when we start to embrace the truth that we don't need to be living in shame. When we're liberated from shame and self-doubt and regret and attachment to the way things are supposed to be. It's supposed to be like what? Controlling things instead of just letting things be on their own path, evolving in their own perfect timing, and allowing ourselves to trust that we are always exactly perfectly where we're supposed to be, or we would be somewhere else. That everything in our life was happening perfectly. It was as it's supposed to be, or it would have been some other way. There's so much order in this universe, everywhere, including here in our timing. It's happening always perfectly for us. Please trust this. So yes, when we finally realize, the reason I'm feeling shame or like I can't show up authentically is because it exists here. I still believe that. And as soon as that is cleared out, that residue, that old belief, that old limiting way, suddenly you're free. You're free. And you stop projecting out the energy of shame. Suddenly, you're not triggered by things people say because that doesn't live in you anymore. Does this make sense? Our perception is everything, but we don't see it's our perception because it's like telling a fish it lives in water. And it's like, what water? Noelle, you have rose-colored glasses. No, I'm not. It's what do you mean? It's my lens. It's not rose-colored, or it's not dark in here. If it's all I've ever known, I have nothing. It's subjective. Our paths, our perceptions, our stories, they are subjective. It's so personal and it's universal. Do you see this? That's why it's so beautiful. And it's so beautiful to come together and talk about these concepts. So if it lives here, it's projecting out. Of course, we're being triggered by it. Now, when you hold that version of you, and this is the work that I do with people, I go through certain modalities that guide them into the most easeful, gentle way to hold the version of themselves that came to believe something before they knew better and speak to it and hold it and give it love, the love that it wanted from its parents, that version of you, that little girl version, even the version of you in her 20s, even the version of you right now. To hold that version of you, we're always doing the best that we can. Everyone is always doing the best they can with the awareness that they have in that moment. And guess what? We keep choosing love in every now moment and we keep evolving. Or we can stay comfortably numb, choosing fear over and over. It's our choice. So when we choose to say, I'm going to hold that version of me with so much love, of course she felt ashamed because she was so young and scared. She just wanted to be seen and loved. But she thought that had to come from her parents because that's the world we live in. Okay, it's okay. There's so much compassion for that. So now I get to hold myself. That's a gift. I get to hold myself and show up for myself. I don't know who said this. Noelle encouraged me to share what I was working on for myself with my husband, not comments about him. Opening up the conversations has helped him feel comfortable with the concept of not being perfect and being vulnerable about what he wants to do better. We can support each other because we acknowledge we are each a work in progress. Thank you. Clearly, I've worked with you. I think I know who this is, but you don't need to say. But yes, that's how it works. When you do the work here, it flows into it can't help because everything is energy. Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the mysteries and the secrets of the universe, start to think in terms of energy, frequency, resonance, vibration. Every thought, every word, every feeling carries a vibration. Emotions are energy in motion. Why do you think we don't want to feel fear and anger and sadness? Because they're low vibrating. They come in and we're like, oh, so heavy. No, anything but that. I will run from that. I will numb out from that, from feeling that. I'm not going to be a participator in my life. No, it's like this. And then finally, when we say, this is so uncomfortable, I can't do this anymore. I'm not willing to do this anymore, to not feel, to numb out, to stay so busy, to distract myself from feeling, from being alive and being human. What are we doing? The story of the buffalo is so beautiful to me. When I heard it, it changed my life, because I knew in that moment when I heard that phenomenon, that a buffalo turns into the storm and runs in and gets to the other side of it quicker because it faced it. Unlike a cow, like I had been running from the storms of my life, running from my emotions of my life and my feelings, thinking that that was going to work. And it kept me numb, and it kept me distant from myself and far from love. I'm sorry to get emotional, but this has changed me in the most beautiful ways. I can honestly say now that the love that permeates my life now is something that I have fostered and given to myself over and over in such deep ways that I'm so grateful for my path. There's not one part of it that I would ever say, oh, I wish that had not happened. Because every experience is always ever bringing us back home to ourselves if we will let it. And at a certain point, we will. I promise you, at a certain point, we will become so uncomfortable from the comfortability of numbness and busyness that we will finally turn towards our triggers, be self-aware, and say, of course you feel that way, because you're human and we've been taught to choose fear. So when we finally choose love and tune in, come home, be still, have intention to show up in love for ourselves over and over, then that's exactly what happens in our relationships with everything. Okay, I don't want to take any more of your time. I want to keep these short and simple and powerful. Thank you, Daedry. Thank you. Yeah, when we show up for ourselves and we create a bridge, this is the last thing I want to say. I really believe that our chakra, our throat chakra and our heart are connected by a bridge when we start trusting what's coming from us and not shoving it down, but creating a bridge of love from our heart to our speaking, our communication. That when our heart hears us finally speaking our truth with so much love, there's a bridge that grows and grows and grows, stronger and stronger, because our heart says, oh, you're finally speaking your truth. Here's some more love. Share it. Share it with the people you're in relationship with. Share it with yourself. Share it with the world. And that's how our world will change. I have so much hope that as we give compassion and love to ourselves first and speak our truth with so much love and compassion to everything, not with anger and pain, not projecting it outward, but to turn towards it with so much love and let it come part of us and then speak out, that love creates a bridge from our heart to our throat and then out. And now we're creating bridges. We are bridge makers. We are here to create bridges between us and the things that have previously had walls, whether it's our relationships with people, first of all ourselves, then people, then experiences, then ideas and opinions, that we're right and they're wrong, or they're right and we're wrong, whatever that is. No, no. Bridges everywhere, bridges of love and compassion and understanding. That's power. When I work with women, especially, and I talk about empowerment, I'm never talking about the power that comes through control or a fist or submission. It's surrendered love. It is the power, becoming empowered by the power of love. Love for yourself, to surrender to the love that you are and let it hold you with so much compassion. So then it starts to bleed out, bubble, and burst forth everywhere, all over everyone. It's so beautiful. Okay. Thank you, Radiant Souls, for being here. I love and believe in each one of you. The path that you're on is uniquely yours. And yet, that's what's so beautiful about life, is that it's not just ours, it's universal. As I sit here and talk about certain things, I know, I believe that it resonates with something deep in you. I have hope. That's my intention. Okay, beautiful beings. Thank you for being here. I love you all. And I am creating I just want to say this, I'm creating new classes, new courses to kind of weave together. I really geek out on the intersection of science and spirituality. I'm a clinically trained mental health practitioner, counselor, therapist, and yet the things that have healed me the most have not been clinical. They've been more spiritual. So I went and got my degree in metaphysical sciences. That's spiritual psychology in different terms. And so I weave these two things together because they're so beautiful to me. And I see that it helps certain people. It's not for everyone, and that's okay. Whoever it resonates with, they will come. But I'm doing more classes. I'm doing in-person retreats. I'm hoping to bring people into my world to let them, so I can hold up a mirror so they can remember that they're already home, that they can allow themselves, through the power of love, to be found by themselves. I feel like that's my purpose right now. And that always is shifting and moving and changing. But right now, coming back to America is to slow down and get back to the basics of helping women see that they are already home. So I am sending so much love to all of you. Thank you for being here. Actually, this is a huge act of self-care, of self-love. Please understand that. You showing up here for is not so much for me, it's for yourself. Please know that. And that's it. Thank you so much. Love for you all. Namaste means the divine light in me sees and feels and understands the divine light in all of you. Okay. Ciao. Thank you. Gonna stop the recording. Stop the recording.